Death is always tragic, but sometimes the way it happens is so bizarre that it almost seems unreal. In this video, we'll look at 5 real stories of people who died in the dumbest ways possible. These weren't criminals or thrill seekers, just normal people who made one bad choice or ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. From simple mistakes to unbelievable accidents, these cases will leave you wondering how such things could happen. It was July 2019 in Erzurum, Turkey. 24-year-old Zafer Kuzu had recently been convicted of causing harm to another person. Instead of prison, he was sentenced to community service, something that, while inconvenient, wasn't a severe punishment. But for Zafer, even this was too much. Determined to escape it, he came up with a reckless plan, one that would ultimately cost him his life. Zafer didn't want to complete his sentence. Instead, he convinced himself that if he were injured badly enough, he could avoid it altogether. His idea? To stage an accident that would send him to the hospital. It wasn't a well-thought-out plan, but it was one he was willing to go through with. He wasn't alone. 2 of his friends, an 18-year-old known as FY and another friend called FYT, agreed to help. The plan was simple but dangerous. Zafer would strap 2 pillows to his back to soften the impact, and one of his friends would shoot him with a shotgun at close range. The hope was that the blast would leave him injured, just enough to land him in a hospital bed, but not enough to cause real harm. But things did not go as planned. A shotgun doesn't fire a single bullet. It shoots multiple pellets at once, spreading out as they travel. Even with pillows as makeshift protection, Zafer was putting himself in serious danger. When FY pulled the trigger, the force of the blast tore through the fabric, completely bypassing the so-called padding. The impact was devastating. Zafer collapsed in pain. His friends, realizing the situation had gone horribly wrong, panicked. They rushed to help him, trying to get him medical attention, but it was too late. Before they could even leave the house, Zafer had succumbed to his injuries. Authorities were called to the scene shortly after. When police arrived, they detained both friends. FY, the one who fired the shotgun, was immediately arrested, while FYT was taken into custody for questioning. The shotgun was seized, and Zafer's body was sent to a forensic institute in Istanbul for an autopsy. During the investigation, details of the bizarre plan emerged. It became clear that Zafer had believed this was a way out of his punishment. Instead, his attempt to escape responsibility had led to an irreversible outcome. In court, FY faced legal consequences for his role in the incident. He was charged and placed in custody while proceedings took place. Meanwhile, FYT was released on bail, but remained under investigation. Zafer's story left many in shock. It was hard to understand why he would go to such extreme lengths to avoid something as minor as community service. His decision to stage an injury had not only failed, but had taken his life in the process. For his 2 friends, the reality of what had happened weighed heavily. What had started as a foolish plan had turned into something far more serious. They now had to live with the knowledge that their involvement had contributed to a tragic loss. Zafer's death was an unfortunate reminder that reckless decisions can have permanent consequences. He had sought a way out, but instead he had created a situation with no way back. His story, though unusual, serves as an example of how desperation can push people to make choices that lead to disaster. It was 2014 in Xinjiang City, China, when an ordinary accident turned into a horrific disaster. A woman visiting her husband's family had just finished using an open-pit toilet when she accidentally dropped her brand-new phone into the waste below. The phone was worth around 2,000 yuan, or about $320 at the time, and she was determined to get it back. She called her husband for help, and without hesitation, he jumped into the pit. But as soon as he landed, the toxic fumes from the sewage overwhelmed him, and he lost consciousness almost immediately. Seeing this, his mother panicked and jumped in after him, trying to pull him out. But she, too, was quickly overcome by the gases and collapsed. Now, with both her husband and mother-in-law trapped, the woman made a desperate decision. She climbed into the pit herself. The moment she entered, the fumes hit her, and she fainted. One by one, the family members were falling. Her father-in-law, watching in horror, tried to call for help, but in a final act of desperation, jumped in as well. Like the others, he was quickly overpowered by the toxic air and lost consciousness. At this point, the entire family was trapped inside. Neighbors heard the commotion and rushed to help. Realizing how serious the situation was, they used ropes to pull the victims out, but even some of the rescuers were affected. One neighbor fainted from the fumes. By the time all 6 people were pulled from the pit, the damage was already done. The woman's husband and mother-in-law did not survive. The others, including the woman, her father-in-law, and 2 neighbors, were in critical condition. They were immediately taken to the hospital, but the loss had already shattered the family. Authorities later determined that the victims had only been in the pit for about 5 minutes, but that was enough for the toxic gases to do irreversible harm. The realization was devastating. If help had arrived sooner, the outcome might have been different. As news spread, the community was left in shock. The woman's uncle, overwhelmed with grief, struggled to comprehend the sudden loss of 2 family members. "What are we supposed to do now?" he asked. The entire neighborhood mourned the tragedy, grappling with the fact that something so simple, retrieving a phone, had led to such unimaginable consequences. In the aftermath, the incident left an eerie reminder of how dangerous confined spaces with toxic fumes can be. The phone, the object that set off the entire chain of events, was never recovered. But at that point, it no longer mattered. The real loss was the lives that had been taken too soon and the irreversible impact left on those who survived. This story is not just about an accident. It's a chilling example of how quickly things can spiral out of control. A single moment of desperation led to an unimaginable loss, leaving behind grief, unanswered questions, and a family forever changed. It was December 12, 2021, a quiet Sunday afternoon in Jaipur, India. Mohsin, a 29-year-old man from Uttar Pradesh, had been living in the city for 2 years with his partner and her young daughter. But this wasn't a typical relationship. The woman had left her husband and eloped with Mohsin, cutting ties with her past life. Since then, her husband had been searching for her, determined to find her and their child. That day, his search came to an end. The husband arrived at the apartment where Mohsin and his wife had been living. What exactly was said inside remains unclear, but the moment Mohsin saw him, he panicked. For 2 years, he had been avoiding this confrontation, and now, with nowhere to hide, he made a desperate decision. Instead of facing the situation, he ran to the balcony and jumped from the 5th floor. The fall was devastating. Mohsin landed hard, suffering critical injuries. His partner, who had witnessed everything, immediately rushed him to SMS Government Hospital, hoping he would survive, but the damage was too severe. That night, Mohsin succumbed to his injuries. The next day, his body was sent for a post-mortem examination before being handed over to his family. But the story didn't end there. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the woman and her husband disappeared. No one knew where they had gone, and authorities were unable to track them down. Their sudden vanishing only deepened the mystery surrounding the case. Investigators determined that Mohsin's reaction had been driven by fear. Rather than facing a confrontation, he had acted on impulse, making a choice that ultimately cost him his life. In the days leading up to the incident, Mohsin and the woman had moved into a new apartment near NRI Circle, hoping for a fresh start. But whatever peace they had found was short-lived. Police confirmed that the woman's husband had never stopped looking for her. When he finally found her, things took a turn no one had expected. Instead of a conversation, fear and panic took control, leading to a tragic end. Mohsin's family was left in shock. They struggled to understand why he had made such a desperate choice. Their grief was compounded by the unanswered questions surrounding his final moments. Meanwhile, authorities continued searching for the woman and her husband, but their whereabouts remained unknown. Mohsin's story is one of fear, impulsive decisions, and an unresolved mystery. His attempt to escape a difficult situation only led to devastating consequences. And with the key figures in the story now missing, the full truth may never come to light. It was 1992 when Greg Austin Gingrich took a trip to the Grand Canyon with his teenage daughter. Greg was known for his sense of humor, always playing jokes and making people laugh. He and his daughter shared a close bond, built on adventure and fun. This trip seemed like just another opportunity for Greg to pull one of his classic pranks, but this time it would cost him everything. The Grand Canyon is one of the most breathtaking natural wonders in the world, attracting millions of visitors each year. But with its stunning views come serious risks. The steep cliffs and unpredictable terrain can be dangerous for those who don't take caution. Greg, however, wasn't thinking about safety when he decided to stage a stunt in front of his daughter. Standing near the edge of a guard wall, he pretended to lose his balance, flailing his arms and stumbling as if he was about to fall. The plan was to scare his daughter, then land safely on a small rock below, revealing it was all just a joke. His daughter, used to his antics, wasn't impressed. She simply walked ahead, assuming it was just another one of his pranks. But Greg had made a terrible miscalculation. The rock he intended to land on was much farther than he thought. As he slipped off the ledge, expecting to catch himself, he lost control. Instead of landing safely, he fell, plummeting nearly 400 feet. His daughter, unaware of what had just happened, kept walking, likely thinking he would come up laughing, as he always did. By the time she realized something was wrong, it was too late. Park rangers arrived at the scene, and after a search, they found Greg's body at the bottom of the canyon. What had started as a harmless joke had turned into a tragedy. Greg's daughter was left in shock. One moment, she had been with her father, listening to his jokes. The next, he was gone. The reality of what had happened was something she would carry for the rest of her life. This wasn't the first time someone had lost their life at the Grand Canyon. Every year, around a dozen people die in accidents there. Many are due to missteps near the edge, misjudging distances, or ignoring safety warnings. The canyon's cliffs are unforgiving, and even the smallest mistake can have fatal consequences. Greg's story is a chilling example of how unpredictable nature can be. He was confident in his ability to pull off the prank, never considering that a small error could lead to disaster. He assumed he knew the terrain well enough, but nature doesn't care about confidence. It only reacts to actions. His family was left to grieve, and his daughter in particular had to live with the memory of that day. What was meant to be a simple joke turned into an event that would haunt her forever. Greg's death was not about recklessness or a lack of experience. It was a case of underestimating the danger. The Grand Canyon is beautiful, but it commands respect. One misstep, one wrong move can change everything. While accidents like these are rare, they do happen. Many visitors let their guard down, caught up in the excitement of exploring such a majestic place. They take risks for the sake of thrill or fun, forgetting that nature doesn't play along. If Greg had thought twice before attempting his prank, he might have walked away from that trip with just another funny story to tell. Instead, his daughter left the Grand Canyon without her father, forever carrying the weight of that day. For those who visit places like the Grand Canyon, Greg's story is a reminder. Beauty can be deceiving, and nature is not something to take lightly. A single moment of miscalculation can change everything, and sometimes there is no second chance. It was November 4th, 2012 at the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium. 2-year-old Maddox Lamar Durkosh was visiting the zoo with his parents, Jason and Elizabeth. The family stopped at the African Painted Dog exhibit, a popular attraction featuring a raised viewing platform where visitors could look down into the enclosure. While designed to provide a good view, this platform had risks, especially for small children. Wanting Maddox to see the animals better, Elizabeth lifted him onto the 4-foot-high railing. Despite posted warnings about safety, it was common for parents to hold their kids up for a better look. As she held him, Maddox lost his balance and slipped from her grasp. He fell 14 feet, missing the safety net below, which was only meant to catch small objects, not a child. He landed in the middle of the enclosure, right among the 11 wild dogs. The situation turned horrific almost instantly. The animals reacted to Maddox's fall, and despite zoo staff responding quickly, they were unable to reach him in time. A police officer fired a shot at one of the dogs in an attempt to stop the attack, but it was too late. Maddox had suffered fatal injuries. A veterinarian on the scene confirmed that there was nothing that could be done. The incident left everyone in shock. The exhibit was immediately closed, and the zoo contained the remaining animals. In the aftermath, the Durkosh family was devastated, and the tragedy sparked both legal and emotional battles. Elizabeth faced harsh criticism for lifting Maddox onto the railing, but authorities ultimately decided not to press charges. Allegheny County District Attorney Stephen A. Zappala Jr. ruled the event as a tragic accident. Still, the family pursued legal action against the zoo, arguing that it had failed to address safety concerns. Documents revealed that the zoo had known about the dangers of the exhibit since at least 2006. Staff had previously observed parents holding children over the railing, raising concerns that an accident could happen. However, no changes had been made. Despite this, the Pittsburgh Zoo insisted that the exhibit met all required safety standards and had passed 35 federal inspections since it opened. Public opinion was divided. Some blamed the zoo for not taking action after repeated safety warnings, while others argued that Maddox's mother should have been more cautious. The case was eventually settled out of court, with the terms remaining confidential. Following the tragedy, the zoo made changes. The viewing platform where Maddox had fallen was removed, and the African-painted dogs were relocated to other facilities. The exhibit was later replaced with a new one featuring cheetahs, but criticism remained, particularly regarding how the zoo handled the situation. Many felt it unfairly placed the blame on Elizabeth, who was already grieving the loss of her child. Despite their grief, Maddox's parents found a way to honor his memory. Since he loved toy trucks, the family started a donation drive, collecting toy trucks to give to children in need during the holiday season. The initiative touched many hearts, and thousands of people from across the country participated, ensuring that Maddox's love for trucks lived on in a meaningful way. While nothing could undo the tragedy, the incident led to broader discussions about safety in public spaces. It also raised difficult questions about responsibility, whether institutions like zoos should do more to prevent accidents, and how families navigate the unthinkable loss of a child. Maddox's story is one of immense sorrow, but his family has worked to keep his memory alive. Through their efforts, they not only bring joy to other children, but also remind others of the importance of safety, awareness, and the lasting impact of a single moment.